Have you ever stopped and wondered where big ideas really come from? I'm not just talking about science or math, but the really big stuff. Ideas about how to live a good life. Well, today, we're going on a quest back in time. We're going to explore the ancient cultural roots of India that have shaped how millions and millions of people think and live.
You know, a great way to picture all this is with a giant banyan tree. Just imagine its deep, ancient roots. Those are the original ideas we're about to explore. These roots feed a massive, strong trunk of shared values. And from that trunk, you get all these different branches, the amazing art, the stories, the different ways of life that make up Indian culture today. They all look a little different, but they all connect right back to that same source.
The people who started this whole journey were searching for a special kind of treasure, and this ancient wise saying, or Supashita, tells us exactly what it was. They were after the greatest wealth of all, true knowledge. Think about it. It's the one thing you can share that only grows bigger, and that's really what this is all about, that quest for wisdom.
So, here's the map for our journey today. We'll kick things off with the big questions that started this whole search. Then we'll listen to the ancient whispers of the Vedas. We'll follow the Buddha on his great awakening, and we'll meet the great hero, Mahavira. And finally, we'll see how all these incredible ideas connect and trace them all the way down to their deepest roots in nature.
Our quest really begins with the kind of questions you might have even asked yourself, like, what's the right way to live? Why is there sadness in the world? And what does it all mean? Well, thousands of years ago, people all across India were exploring these exact same questions, and they were determined to find some answers.
The first path on our journey takes us to the Vedas. The best way to think of these is as ancient voices of wisdom. We're talking about some of the oldest collections of knowledge in the entire world. They give us the first big clues in our search for India's cultural roots.
The word Veda itself is pretty cool. It comes from the Sanskrit word vid, which literally just means knowledge. But these weren't books with paper pages. Nope, the Vedas were amazing collections of thousands of hymns, poems, and prayers that were spoken, chanted, and sung out loud.
And what's absolutely incredible is how this knowledge was preserved. For over 100 generations, that's thousands of years, people memorized these hymns perfectly, passing them down from teacher to student without a single word ever being written down. It's such an amazing feat of memory that UNESCO actually called it a masterpiece of human heritage.
So, what was one of the core ideas from these ancient whispers? Well, this famous line from the Rig Veda gives us a huge clue. It basically says that the ultimate truth of the universe is one single thing, but wise people might see it from different angles and describe it in different ways using all sorts of different names. It's a really powerful idea about finding unity, even when things look different on the surface.
All right, let's move to our next path, and a whole new story. This one is about a prince who had everything he could ever want, but he left it all behind to find an answer to one of life's biggest problems. Why do people suffer?
Meet Prince Siddhartha Gautama. He grew up in a beautiful palace, completely sheltered from the outside world. Seriously, his father made sure he never saw anything sad or unpleasant. He had no idea that things like old age, sickness, or even death existed.
And then, one day, everything changed. He left the palace and saw, for the very first time, an old man, a sick man, and a dead body. This discovery of suffering completely shocked him and set him on a brand new path. He left his royal life behind, and, after years of searching, he sat down to meditate under a peepal tree, and it was there that he finally found his answer and became known as the Buddha, which means the awakened one.
So, what was his big realization? Well, the Buddha taught that suffering comes from two main things: ignorance, which means not seeing the world as it truly is, and attachment, which is wanting things way too much. He realized that by training your mind, you could actually overcome both of them.
This quote really captures his message perfectly. The Buddha taught that the greatest battle isn't fought on some battlefield with swords and shields. The real victory is inside, in learning to understand and control your own mind. Now that is true strength.
Now, what's amazing is that around the same time as the Buddha, another prince named Vardhamana was on a very similar journey. He also left a life of luxury behind to search for supreme wisdom and become a conqueror of the self.
Just like Siddhartha, Prince Vardhamana left his home, and for 12 long years, he practiced intense discipline and meditation. After this incredible effort, he finally achieved enlightenment and became known as Mahavira, which means the great hero.
Mahavira was also called a Jina, or a conqueror. And just like the Buddha, this wasn't about conquering kingdoms or armies. It was all about conquering those inner enemies, our own ignorance and our negative feelings. His followers became known as Jains, the followers of the conqueror.
So, what did he teach? Well, his teachings centered on three core ideas. First, ahimsa, the practice of not causing harm to any living being. And that includes not just with your actions, but even with your thoughts. Second, anekantavada. This is the fascinating idea that truth has many sides. Like that old story of people touching different parts of an elephant in the dark, each one has a piece of the truth, but nobody has the whole picture. And third, aparigraha, or non-possession. This is the idea of not being attached to stuff and only taking what you truly need. It's kind of like the idea of minimalism you might hear about today.
Okay, so we've explored a few different branches of thought. Now let's see how they connect back to that common trunk of our banyan tree. Where do these big ideas overlap?
You can see right here just how much these two paths had in common. Both Buddhism and Jainism taught that all life is deeply interconnected. Both placed a huge importance on nonviolence, or ahimsa, and at their core, both were searching for a way to end suffering and ignorance. They were different journeys, for sure, but they were leading toward a very similar destination.
And this ancient carving just illustrates that principle of ahimsa so brilliantly. You have a lion and a cow, who would normally be enemies, peacefully sharing a drink. It's such a beautiful and powerful symbol of a world without violence, a world of total harmony.
But wait, the roots of our banyan tree go even deeper. Before the Vedas were ever composed, or before the Buddha taught his first sermon, ancient folk and tribal traditions drew their wisdom from a really deep connection to the natural world.
And these traditions are not just a thing of the past. To give you an idea of how important they still are, just look at this number. In 2011, there were 104 million people in India belonging to tribal communities. That is a massive population, carrying on traditions that are thousands and thousands of years old.
For centuries, all these different ways of thinking have been in a conversation with each other. As this quote explains, it was a two-way exchange. The big schools of thought we've talked about were influenced by tribal beliefs, and at the same time, tribal beliefs were influenced by them. This constant sharing of ideas has made the culture so much richer for everyone.
So, we end our journey right back here in the present, with a question for you. From the idea of conquering yourself, to nonviolence towards all living beings, to understanding that truth has many sides, which of these ancient ideas about how to live a good life seems most important for our world today? It's pretty amazing, isn't it, how these roots, thousands of years old, can still give us so much to think about.